Boom, boom. How's it going? Welcome aboard. It is TJ, and welcome to M5 Property Addicts. And this is the channel where we talk anything and everything about property and real estate. And in today's video, we are going to be covering something that is cool, important, and like it is on a Saturday, we talk about books. And in today's books, I would like to share with you guys the one book that has changed my life. And so many books have changed my life, but I always say that we need to find 5 things that we talk about in each book. Like this one here, book here is called Our Iceberg Is Melting. How many of us have read this book? And my name is TJ, Taurai Jack. And if this is your first time, boom, good having you around. And if it is your second, third, fourth time, hey, it is good having you around. I just want to speak to the fact that, if you don't know me, I'm an active property investor. I invest down here in Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, and Durban in the property that's called, boom, M5 Property Addicts. And I'm of the view that I am a teacher, because in the business that I've got in M5 Property Addicts, we also teach other people how to invest in property, and that business is called M5 Property Varsity. Besides that, I'm an investor, I'm a teacher, and if I'm not doing that, I'm doing what I'm doing right now, sharing the gospel of property with you through books. But I also write books. So I'm an author, and my recent book, it is called From Bed Debt to Property Mogul. And you want to get that book, you can find it on our website and or on our Facebook page. But as a Saturday, we don't only talk about property, and we focus on books that have made me grow to where I am today. And the idea is that we share and learn from these books. And this book here is written by a guy called John Kotter. And John Kotter is John Kotter or John Kotter? John Kotter, yeah? He's the award-winning author from Harvard Business School. Harvard Business School. So which means that he's an interesting guy. I actually read this book a couple of years ago. The way that this book is written, it's in a fascinating manner. It's in a manner that's like, like a fable-like. It's got nice pictures. You can see. And I started getting an exposure on this book back in the 90s. And that is when I first read this book, like late 90s, early 2000s. That's when I got my first exposure of this book. I'm going to pack this book here, but like it is, I always say that, all of these books that I read and that I share, I've personally learned something from them. And today I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I've learned from this book. And I will speak a little bit later about 3 things that I implemented. But before I jump on to speak about the 5 things that I learned, where can you find the book? Where can you find the book? Our Iceberg Is Melting. You can find the book in the link below. I've put in a link. You can literally click in there and you can order this book for yourself. Right. But before I go on further, or as we're going on further, let me jump on to talk about exactly what were my 5 things that I learned. What is the book all about? The book is about changing and succeeding under any conditions. So which means that this book here is talking about changing. And in this moment of time, we are going through lots and lots of changes. People have had to work from home. We have had to homeschool our kids, those that have kids. We've had to be inside. We've had to cover our faces. We've had to do so many things. There's been so many changes that have been happening. And I thought, which one of my books have helped me actually to navigate this time and season? And this book here has helped me to navigate such kind of things. And yeah, so let's dive into it and talk about what are the 5 things that I learned from this book. And I'll give you some of those contexts from this book actually. In a nutshell, John Kotter, he puts in within this book a narrative that is some penguins. For some of us who might not know what penguins are, those are the penguins, right? Penguins, they have always lived in the Antarctic, And this particular group of penguins, they live happily ever after within that area. Food was in abundance, and they'd always laughed. They were comfortable, and life was good where they were. But what happened was that in this fable, or in the stories that they were talking about, is that John Kotter tries to portray the fact that actually the iceberg was melting. And what really happened is the iceberg was melting. And the fable in here goes on to tell the stories of what happened to the leaders, what happened to the individuals. And this is a true story actually of how we live our lives. I'm fortunate enough to have actually utilized this book, not only for myself, but I've also used it in the workplace. This was some book that I took in, and I borrowed quite a lot of things out of it in terms of executing. I used to do change management back in the day, so a lot of human behaviors. But I want to state to the fact that let's look at the 5 things that I learned, so this is all about when change is happening. What happens when change is happening? The first thing is that I learned is that we can change if we want. We can change if we want. That's the first thing. I think at many a times we don't change because we're too comfortable, and we don't want to change because we don't know any better, or we don't want to change because where we are is just too nice, cushion, right? But in this book, it actually taught me the fact that if we want, we can change. And a lot of us, we are made to change because of circumstance. Remember back in the days how I lost 5 million, and out of that, it was circumstantial. I had to change. I had to change my behavior in terms of how I see things for me to get out of it. And I'm of the view that this book here taught me on one of the things of that, the fact that we can change if we want. The key word there is if we want. Second thing is that I learned at times we are too comfortable to see that we need to change. And many times we are too comfortable to see that we need to change. I mean, I can go on to talk about this. I think a lot of us, we are just in that job because it's comfortable. We're getting the paycheck that we want. And many of us, we are in that relationship because it's providing the comfort that we want. And many times we are just driving that expensive car because it's comfortable, right? But the reality of it is that we are just too comfortable to see the need to change. If we remove the comfort from it, there we see the need to change. But I'm not going to beat around that. I think you need to look into yourself and like, what is it that I'm too comfortable in for me to be able to change? The third thing, when faced with challenges, we tend to blame others around what is happening. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I might have, had it not been for this book, actually, when I lost money, I could have blamed others. I could have blamed the guys that were working for me. I could have blamed the system. I could have blamed the education that I didn't have. I could have blamed so many things, but I didn't, because I'd had the education in this book to say that when you're going through changes, actually you mustn't be blaming, because when you're blaming, all you're doing is shifting the focus away from you onto others. It's like in these days, we can blame the government. I am married. I can blame the wife. I can blame my parents that never raised me. You all know that my parents never raised me. My mother left me when I was 2 months. She literally abandoned me. I write about this in my book. And my father was never there. So I can speak about all of these things and I can blame all of those circumstances. But that's what happened when we are in a fix or when the challenges hit. And now we're trying to find a scapegoat. We try now to blame others instead of just taking responsibility of the situation and carry on. And that's one of the things that I learned in that book. The fourth thing that I learned is that during the challenges or during a time of change, we become denial. it is not happening to me. Yes, it won't happen to me. Yes, no. So we go through the emotions of denial, and yet everything is happening around us. And many a times we go in and we play the whole scenario of the ostrich. The ostrich, what it does is that when change is happening or challenges have come through, it goes through, boom, it hits his head. Where? In the sand, and is hiding. Is it really hiding? The whole body of it is exposed. So what is it hiding from? Nothing really. It is exposed. And for some of us, we are in denial and we get drunk and we go and seek, right? To seek comfort into some things. And I've always had a challenge with some of my close people that go in and they get drunk and they're saying that they are drinking the sorrows away. And I'm of the view that no, you're not drinking your sorrows away, because when you get sober again, tomorrow, not only have you become your sorrows, you have drunk your sorrows, but the next day you have no money and you are still, the money that you're supposed to have may be resolved into something else. And now it is all gone into your drinking sorrows. Now, what am I saying here? Denial is the problem. And I'm of the view that we just need to head on what is the problem, who can help me, and who's been on this path before. And out of those things, I think they can help me to navigate this instead of being in denial. Because the moment we get into denial, we are worsening the problem, perpetuating it. And by the time we want to come back and resolve it, it's potentially has gone into a worse situation. Point number 5, the thing that I learned, 5 things that I learned. Where we see vision, right, as a people, where we see vision, we are likely to participate or gravitate, right? Where we see vision or where we see the vision, we are likely to participate or gravitate to. I realize that each time when there's a great change that is happening and it's very clear, or someone within my circle is very clear on the vision, on what we are trying to do within the mess of that change, I am likely going to gravitate to that person because he's a visionary. He is seeing beyond the problem. He is seeing how we can get onto the other side. He is talking about the big things that we can achieve. So we are running away, or should I say, the obstacle that we are seeing here within the change that's happening, we can actually solve it because we have somewhere bigger where we are going. And in learning all of this, I think this is one of my go-to place where I always want to see people who are playing big, not just playing in talk, but in talk and in action. I like to gravitate to such kind of people because I can learn from them because they are visionaries and they are doing something. And those are my 5 things that I learned from John Kotter within this book. There are so many characters that you can almost learn a whole lot of things, but the reality of it is a lot of the things that happen through change, when a change happens, when a challenge is happening, we can see ourselves in many of these characters. And I would like you to, jump in and read this book. It's a good read. It's an easy read. I think you can literally do it in a day or so. But I also want to jump into the fact of what are the 3 things that I implemented? What are the 3 things that I implemented? The first thing that I implemented was, up until now, when I learned about this book, I never get comfortable with anything. I never get comfortable with anything. So does it mean that me and you, when we are talking, I'm not comfortable around you? That's not what I mean. What I mean is that in everything that I do, I've now realized, or what I do is I push myself to get out of the comfort zone so that we can get to the next mile. So my thing is that I am never comfortable in the space I am, because the moment you start getting comfortable, you see the need not to change. So I don't get comfortable to say that, hey, I've learned everything. I'm a real estate. Hey, I've bought properties. Hey, I'm in 4 cities. No, I am not comfortable. I'm still learning other things on how I can implement different strategies. I'm still learning from other great people on how I can do it better, right? Even though I'm a teacher myself, but I'm learning from other people. So I'm not comfortable in my space. In my relationship with my wife, how best can I be better? In my relationship with my kids, how best can I get better? So I'm not comfortable with where I am today. In my relationship with my business partners, what value can I add? Because this value that I have here, they already understand it. So how best can I do better? And that's what it's all about. That's the one thing that I have implemented. The second thing that I've implemented is that instead of blaming, I've learned to seek information. I have learned to seek information. So for that reason, I have dedicated my life to learning, and I'm of the view that when we start blaming, it's because we don't know. When we are seeing the risk, it's because we don't know. And all of these things, when we start blaming, or we are seeing all of the risks that we are seeing, it is because either number one, in your team right now, there is no one who understands that risk to mitigate it. That's why you're seeing the risk, right? But there is nothing wrong in identifying the risk. There is something wrong in identifying the risk and saying, we're going to stop. And in the book here, in the fable book, actually, there's lots of characters that come up, and as they try to blame others comes through with information, and that information gets them to the next step and gets to the next step. The last thing, which is the third thing that I learned, was that because I spoke of visionaries, of the last 5 things that I learned, from visionaries, I have now started realizing that if I am spending time with visionaries, and if I'm spending time with people that think big, if I'm spending time with people that see big, if I'm spending time with people that are doing big things, they always say that if 5 people are broke, you are the 5th person. If you're hanging around 5 people that are broke, you are going to be the next one. If you are hanging around with 5 people that are dumb, you're going to be the next dumb person. If you hang around with 5 people that are drunkards, you're going to be the drunkard. Because the conversations that are happening in that circle, it's all around that. So from me hanging out with visionaries and playing with people that are doing life big in their own personal spaces of being great dads, or being great partners, or being great investors, I also become that. So as I learn from visionaries, so I become one. Hey, it is TJ. It has been great hanging out with you. And I think the results have been great for me. But in all of this, the results for me is that I have, number one, again, trying to poke into myself to learn better. And I've now become a lifetime learner, so that I'm not comfortable. And I'm of the view that if I can do it, you can do it too. And this is the reason why I'm always saying that, hey, if this is a book that you ought to read, it's not going to break the bank. You need to read it as well, so you can jump on and you can read that book, and it's going to change your life, or should I say, it is going to give you a light in your own space on how you behave and how that book is going to help you out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I recommend that you get that book if you really are serious about your growth, and if you've read the book, right? The John Kotter book. If you have read it, whether it was 5 years, 10 years ago, it's probably an old book, but mine is new. Mine is new. The copy is new. Yeah, and if it is something that you have read What did you learn from that book? So in the comments below, let me know what you read. Hey, if this is something that you enjoy having to listen from time to time, I am going to ask of you that this is the time that maybe you want to hit the subscribe button. And also when information like this one, share it with other people. But the most important thing, subscribe, give some comments on what I've asked in here. In the link below, that's where you can grab a copy for yourself. Until next time we meet again, God bless and keep growing. It is I, TJ, Taurai Jack from M5 Property Addicts. Boom!